Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to go over how to get a Docker version of Appian working with Windows. I know we've had a lot of problems here in class trying to get it to work, and I think I've tracked down a lot of the problems. So I'm going to go over that on I've installed Windows on a machine, and I'm going to go over that now. So let's transfer to my Windows machine. Oops. Get the video correct. Okay. So we don't need to know about Google Hangouts. Let me do a new window. All right. So as you remember, go to docker.com to get Docker. So we're going to click on the Get Started with Docker here link. It defaults to Mac OS X for some reason. So we're going to click on Windows. All right, so now we're on the Windows page. So let's go to the next page to install. All right, I have Windows 7. You may have Windows 8 or 8.1 or another thing. So how do you know what version of Windows you have? Oops, let me just hide that. I mean, the easiest, if you have My Computer on the desktop, you can just do Properties and pull that up. But in actuality, it's just in the Control Panel, System and Security, System. It takes you to the same place. And here you can see that I have a 64-bit operating system. I think this is required for Docker. I have Windows 7 or 7.1. I think that's how they do it in Windows. Additionally, I have 4 gigabytes of RAM. Initially, this laptop that I'm using right now only had 2 gigabytes of RAM, and I did run into some problems. I think if you have 2.5 is even fine. But if you have less than 2.5, you might run into some issues. I think they're fixable, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But I think it is required that you have 64-bit Windows installed. We were looking at the lab laptops, and it was very frustrating, but apparently we had only 32-bit Windows installed on all the lab laptops. Erica's working on getting that updated, but it will take a while. So installing, let's go back to Docker. All right, so I have Windows 7, so I need to use this Microsoft Hardware Assisted Virtual Detection tool to make sure that I have set up my computer properly. So I'm going to download this. I've already downloaded it. Or I guess I'll just kind of go through it again. I think Alex went around and set up most people's computers in class. But anyway, you go ahead and download this. Just click here and then next. I thought I could just download it from the screen here, but I guess I have to do next. And then it allows me to download the file. So for those advanced people, you can access the files by going under that window there. But for the most part, any downloads will go into your home directory, into the downloads folder. So I've saved some things. HAV detection tool. Allow it to run. Oh, maybe it's running here in the background. All right. Now, it says in acknowledgement, this computer meets the processor requirements to run Virtual PC. If this computer runs a support edition of Windows 7, you can install Virtual PC. So this is good. If it has an error message here, then you need to change some settings in the BIOS. This yes/no thing, it has no effect on anything. You can say yes, sometimes I say yes, sometimes I no. There's no effect on anything. It just will tell Microsoft what you found out. Now the question is, what BIOS settings do I need to have? We set this up with Alex. I'm going to flip it back to my other computer here. Sorry, I'm off to the side here. I have a quick video showing what the BIOS looks like on this Dell laptop. So I will show that to you. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So there are basically 3 settings here. The first one is they're under the virtualization support. I know it's impossible to read, but this is pretty much the best I could do. The first one you need is virtualization. You need to have that one checked. So that needs to be checked. The second one is VT for direct IO. That also needs to be checked. The third one, trusted execution. That one needs to be not checked. So it's checked, checked, not checked for these three things under virtualization support. If you do not have a Dell, it's going to be very different. So that's just how it is, how it works on the Dell. But basically, you need to enable virtualization technology in the BIOS. Remember, it's usually when you boot up the computer, it's the click F2 setting, for example. So, stop, please. All right, there we are. There, you got me again. All right, I'm going to flip it back to the screen on the laptop here. All right, so once you have that installed, you are now ready to install Docker. So let's just go back to the window. All right, so I'm going to go back to Docker for Windows. Install Docker Toolbox. So you go to the Docker Toolbox page here, and then you download the Windows version. Again, it will save a file to your desktop. Go through all the settings. I know it asks if you need to install Git or the Kitematic. I do not think you need to install Kitematic. I would install Git, but maybe it's not necessary. I installed everything, but I have figured out the reason that it wasn't working before, but I'm pretty sure you do not need to install Kitematic. I have actually never really used it. All right. So the next question is, oh yeah, did that virtualization technology work? So you should, I got the good message from the have detect tool, right? And if you install Docker in class, you probably have something along the default installed right here. So how do I know that VirtualBox is working or not? If I click on new, I should see Windows 64-bit right here. When my thing was not working, it only let me select 32-bit things. So here I have choices between 32-bit and 64-bit. When it's not working, it only lets, when the virtualization is not set up correctly, it only lets you do 32-bit. So if you are working with a previously installed Docker that did not work before, my recommendation is take this default thing here and remove it. Just delete all the files. Right, so now in VirtualBox, we have nothing in our window right here. So we just deleted it. So now I'm going to run the Docker quick starter. This came after you installed Docker. So now it's going to create a new virtual machine. So I should hopefully see that being popping up in this window here. But it's telling Docker to basically start from scratch. So you don't need to uninstall Docker. You don't need to uninstall VirtualBox. Those things are both fine. We just need to make sure VirtualBox is set up correctly. When I had VirtualBox set up incorrectly, when it only did the 32-bit things, after I fixed it, I didn't reinstall it or anything. It just now it showed me the 64-bit options. So. This is taking a while. Not very exciting. So. I'll tell you what, since it might take a little bit of time, I would like to, oh, there it goes. It's starting it up right now. See, now I have a new default created. So this is running now. This is a good sign. So what happens is this Docker creates this thing in VirtualBox, and then that is used by Docker. So I will come back to talking about VirtualBox here in a minute about that port forwarding thing. But really, we do not, once we set up that port forwarding thing, we never, and we know the 64-bit thing is working, we never need to use VirtualBox Manager at all. Everything just goes through Docker. So. Of course, if you're curious what's going on, it's always fun to open up VirtualBox. VirtualBox and see what's going on. But so you can see on the window that stuff is loading, which means that it's still working. So can I change this so it's bigger? I always like having more rows. Let's see, text, there we go. I thought I'd make it so it's a little bit easier for you guys to read. So we'll go with 12th one. There we go. Is it still running? And that first time it takes a while. Oh, there it goes. All right. Now we can change our size here. All right. Very good. I have the boot to Docker logo. Well, just to give you an idea. So I'm going to close this window. Process around. Okay, I'm going to quit. And then I'm going to close power off Docker. So I haven't quite figured it out. I mean, every time you restart your computer, but I haven't quite figured out. Well, I know how to do it, but making it easier for you guys to turn off Docker when you're done with it. Anyway, so now I'm going to launch the Docker Quick Starter again, and it should go much faster. So machine default already exists in VirtualBox. Now it's going to turn it on. See, now it's starting. Starting the virtual manager. Setup should be a lot faster this time around because it's already done it one time before. But again, note it says 64-bit here. If you had a failed install from last time, it'll probably say 32-bit here because it wasn't able to create 64-bit install, and that is a problem. So if you see the 32-bit there, delete it and then run the quick starter again, and hopefully it'll generate itself over again. So, all right, so it's just some messaging. No, it is a little bit slower. I guess I'm working on a really slow laptop. This laptop was made in 2009. So, like I said, it originally only had 2 gig of RAM. So I dug through my box of RAM and I installed 4 gig. So, all right, so here is a good sign. All right, there you go. So there's our working copy of Docker. This is all fine. So I'm going to close this. It doesn't matter, it runs independently. Additionally, you know if Docker is working if you can talk Docker images and it returns a result. That's how you know it's working. If it gives you the TLS error, then everything I talked about didn't work. But before, like I said, that 32-bit thing, I do the Docker image. I did the Docker images. I get the TLS error. I fix it with the 64-bit. Works just like a charm. Okay, so if for some reason you can't connect to Docker, or if this window doesn't pop up correctly when you do the quick start, there is another way. I have a quick link, but if you type in command in your search thing, it pops up in another command window. This is completely different than the other one. Anyway, I forget how this works. That seems biggest, right? I can do Docker machine SSH default, and it'll actually connect to this. So I'm basically getting the same thing through another window there. That's kind of my hack. If you know it's running in VirtualBox, but it's not making the connection in your quick start, the next thing to try is that Docker SSH thing. You do not need to do the Docker SSH thing normally. So now we want to install an image. So Docker pull CentOS 6. For those who don't know, CentOS is a standard Linux thing. So when I say Docker pull CentOS :6, it's going to pull CentOS and it's going to collect version 6. So this is a 190 meg download or so. So it's downloaded the first 66 meg. Now it's downloading the second 66 meg. That goes pretty fast. When I'm going to pull Appian in a minute, it's going to take a little bit longer. So when I do the pull command for Appian, I will I will be pausing the podcast and then starting it up again. At least that's my intention. Or maybe I'll just, can I? I'm wondering if I pause the broadcast if it automatically goes to YouTube or not. Anyway. All right, so now I have a CentOS. And the way to, so now if I go Docker images, I now have a repository CentOS with tag 6. That's what the colon means. It gives me an image ID, tells me how long ago it was created, so it's 3 weeks old, and its size. So, but, Docker CentOS 6 is what I use on all the machines in the physics lab to have Appian. But really, we want to install my version of Appian. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull VOSLab, and I'm calling it pre-Appian because I'm not quite finished, to tell you the truth. VOSLab pre-app 1. So this pre-app 1 thing will change in the future. When I'm finally happy with the final version of Docker, and if this was working for people, I'll definitely get it done for Monday's class. That this is how you will do it. I guess I should have hit enter because this takes a while. All right, so first of all, I showed all these messages because it's polling. I screwed that up, but anyway, it's got to download a whole bunch of stuff. Which it's doing. Well, in the meantime, I can talk about installing a Vnc Viewer. So you're like, what's Vnc Viewer? Well, it is just a VNC, Virtual Network Computing. So we're going to be using this to access Appian. It's a graphical desktop sharing thing that uses a blah, blah, blah to remotely control another computer. Well, basically, we have this Docker computer, and we're going to use VNC to control the Docker computer because we want Windows, for example. So the VNC I want you guys to install is Tiger VNC. So Tiger is in the animal. So we go to the official site here. We're interested in the download. Tiger VNC can be downloaded from our GitHub release page. So you go there. This is funny. And you go to the GitHub release page, and it tells you to go to bin tray. So a couple of steps there, but nonetheless. All right, so we're going to download bin tray. All right, again, we have 64-bit Windows, so we want to do that. We want to install the 64-bit Tiger VNC. So this Tiger VNC will actually allow you to take your laptop and access it from other computers. We don't want to do that today. We only want to view other computers. So we don't want, and actually I tried to set this up and I couldn't get it working. We just want the Vnc Viewer. So we're just going to download the viewer here. Cancel, because I've already downloaded it. So if I go to my downloads, here is my Vnc Viewer. I also downloaded the entire Tiger VNC. Do not want that. So we're just going to install the Vnc Viewer. So actually, I don't know if that's actually just an executable or that's actually a Vnc Viewer. But anyway, that's the window that pops up. I put a quick link to it right here. So this is the program that we'll be using to view the Docker image once the Docker image is installed. I always like having more than one window open, so I'm going to open up another one. So this new window here is going to actually connect to the same Docker, but it will be a new window. So hopefully we'll see that boot to Docker here message in a second. I'm just hoping it's busy doing something. If not, I can use that here. Yeah, so there you go. So the machine is already there. Once again, this is not the fastest laptop in the world. So I type in Docker images to make sure it's connected. All right, and you can see it's actually downloading something in a new image in the meantime. So these are basically anytime each one of these little images is actually a computer. It's essentially all the software that goes into a computer. So, and if you want to run one of these, you just say Docker run, and then you can either use the image ID, that funky number that consists of 0 through 9 and A through F letters. It's a hexadecimal. Or you can just do -T and then give it the name that you called it originally, CentOS 6. So, yeah, so, and I want it to be interactive. So I'm going to type in I, and then I want it to let me access the computer. So I'm just going to do bin bash. You're not going to do this for anything. I'm just doing an example while it downloads. Oh, it's finished downloading. Excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, I mean, this might be an example of how you just want to run CentOS or something like that. But our new images our pre-Appian image is downloaded. You can see here, VOSLab pre-app tag 1. Here's the image ID. I created it 2 days ago. I have some updates that I will be posting soon. But you don't need to worry about that. You just say docker pull VOSLab pre-app, and hopefully in the future I'll set it up so it'll grab the newest, latest, and greatest version. So anyway, we want to run this. So I'm going to type in the tag name VOSLab pre-app 1. Like I said, if I remove the -T in the VOSLab, I can put in this 36B, but I'm going to use the name like this. Second, and this is very important, if we want to be able to use our web browser to access the Appian page, we need to forward the port that the web browser uses, that is 80. So I'm typing in P80:80. Second, if we want to use that Vnc viewer, I need to forward the port 5901. And I'm going to run it in the background, which you give it a -D. So, okay, I did it backwards. I think this needs to go at the end. I was talking out of order, sorry. So docker run -P8080-P5901:5901 -T VOSLab pre-app 1. I'm going to put a -D here in the front. All right, so now it's created. The word they use is a container. If I do docker images, it doesn't tell me anything. But if I do docker ps, it actually tells me that something is running. Before I started that, and it gave me, so here's this ID here. It's really long, but it gives you the short version. So this means if this message is here and it didn't crash, that means my Docker image is running in a container, meaning that now we can go and access that container, which has Appian installed. Now, this is not going to work, and I'll tell you why in a second. I type in localhost, bam, and it doesn't connect to anything. It should work, but it says it's unable to connect. And the reason is it can't get through VirtualBox to our container. So we did this in class. So I'm opening up VirtualBox. So I just double-clicked on the icon there. Again, you can access that through probably your all programs, etc. And it appears to be busy. So just take a minute and we'll think about how busy the computer is. Additionally, it's running this image in the background, so that's taking a lot of the resources, and it's probably slowing some things down as well. So these two windows are the same. So if I did docker ps, it also shows the same port there. So I was going to run that docker. So we're going to run the CentOS while I'm waiting for VirtualBox. Oh wait, it's been open the whole time. All right. Anyway, so you get here. I want you to click on Settings on the default one. You may have other images if you use VirtualBox for something else, but the default one is the one that's created by Docker. And then again, we're going to Network. Oh, come on, baby. I don't know what that progress bar is. It's a problem with running on a computer with limited memory, which is another reason why we're buying a 32 gig. All right, so the first rule I'm going to call HTTP, which stands for, web browsing. I'm going to do 80. I told you earlier to do 80. That might be necessary on a Mac, but on the Windows machine, it definitely is working on 80. And then the other one is VNC. And remember, I designated 5901 as our VNC port. All right. Oh, sorry, this is review. HTTP 8080. VNC 5901, 5901. You need to leave these blank. One of the errors I had initially, as I put a number in there, does not work. All right, so it saves the settings, and you can just leave Docker running when it does this. In my experience, fingers crossed, it actually works, right? All right. Okay. All right, so now if I go back to Firefox and I type in localhost, I now see the Apache web server. I'm going to change this to AMI, but for the current being, if you type in my AMI web, it loads Appian. I put in a Docker container. Other updates, there are no images in this container at the moment. So the image viewer is completely blank. There's nothing to process. If you click on processing, it'll probably give you an error. Yeah, your access is denied. There's no images. I don't have any images. There's no sessions. So that's the next thing I'm working on fixing. Baby steps. I wasn't sure if this is actually even going to work on Windows. So that's cool. We got that in the web browser. But where do I copy and paste? You guys are in class we copy and paste the command into a terminal. Where do I do that? Well, that's where the VNC thing comes in. So again, I bookmarked it. But so here's my VNC, right? Again, we're going to connect to localhost. We're going to connect to port 5901, the other one we opened up. Then I hit connect. It's going to ask for a password. The password is Appian rules, capital A, P-P-I-O-N, R-U-L-S. So I'm just going to type that into this window here. And voila. So localhost. That's going to give me the page here. All right, well, it's taking a little bit of time. But anyway, here is our image viewer. Again, this is the same thing as in our Firefox. So this is in a window, and I can minimize this window here. This is the VNC viewer. This is different from Firefox. So here's, right. This is all in Tiger VNC. This is like a whole another computer that we're accessing the monitor on. So we have the monitor on our monitor. And whenever you create a command in this window or in this window, if I create the command here, I can copy and paste it, and then paste it into this window, or I could use the Firefox in the container to copy and paste the command. But anyway, you're going to paste the command in this window here. I apologize, my computer is running a little slow at the moment. I guess I can close down some things we don't need.